Alright, so first I will give some introductions. Welcome everybody to the Research Nexus UITM webinar series for renewable energy and environment. My name is Siti Hajjar Latip, chairperson for today's webinar, from coordinator from Energy and Environment Research Nexus UITM, Office of Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. Please click unmute on the microphone button in the toolbar. And if you have any question during the presentations, please type them into the chat box in your control panels, and I will bring them up in the during after the presentations, and we will have time for questions at the end. And so I would like to give you a view about food security. So this is actually a talk from professors in agriculture economics at UPM, Professor Nasir Samsudin. He said that the food security situations of the country is becoming a more and more significant issues, and there needs to be an improvement in Malaysia's approach for agriculture research. He also identified a number of issues plaguing the food sector that need addressing, namely underinvestment in agriculture research, small-scale farms with poor technology, a lack of entrepreneurship, climate change, and depleting resources. And a lack of food security is particularly damaging for poorer communities that may lack access and the money to afford food when it becomes scarce. So actually, it's a right time we discuss these matters, what UITM can do to start our country in terms of food security. So without further ado, I will read the biographies of Dr. Md Sikin, our first actually speakers for today. Dr. Md Sikin is a member of Faculty of Applied Sciences in UITM Shah Alam. He served as the council member of Malaysian Institute of Food Technology from 2016 to 2020. He obtained his PhD from Cornell University, USA in the field of food safety engineering. He has so far published in 12 scientific papers in various fields of food science and technology. And Dr. Adi currently supervises 3 masters and 2 PhD students in the area of food safety and processing. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Md Sikin to present. Thank you.
Okay, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Thank you to very nice introduction to Dr. Siti, Noor Hajjar. And also, I would like to say thank you to the Research Nexus UITM for giving me an opportunity to talk about our topic today, which is food security, research advances and opportunities. All right, so next. Okay, we are actually facing a very challenging times where food security has never been so important before. And we are, as you may well aware that, you know, our newspaper has been publishing a lot of articles which addressing food safety issues lately in the face of pandemic. And this article I sent in early October, urging the policymakers in our country to relook at how secure we are in in our food supply, and try to look into and try to actually localize our food supply chains in response to restricted border rules. Okay. And among others, I propose that we need to actually we actually needs to revoke our in the policy for being dependent with the rice productions. Okay, that means we still have to continue importing rice. as well as we have to also be looking into looking into the what we call that food foods food what we call that the subsidy, all right. The government, our policymakers, has to carefully select food items that has been given subsidy, so that when this subsidy is lifted up, the people will be more mindful about food wastage, you know. And so it did not take long for actually the newspaper to publish this article, because it was published the day after I actually sent it to them. And this is to actually see how this is indicate how actually important the issue of food safety in the time where we are facing right now, right? Okay, next. Next. Okay, climate change, loss of farmland to biofuel or mining, disease, water stress, war and conflicts, poverty, to just name a few. But most importantly is the increase in the populations, all right? And feeding the world sustainably is one of the greatest challenge in the humankind. And as you can see from this graph, from 1961 to 2000, an exponential increase in population was observed. Although the food production demand is met by more than 100%, but it is actually at the expense of our environment and also depletion of our abundant food resources that we live in. So, because we have been putting in more chemicals to the soils, and we also emit gases that affect our greenhouse. So, in 2050, it is estimated that there will be 9.7 billion people on Earth, and we will require about 70% more food than it is consumed today. So it is going to be a very daunting task to make sure that there is enough food supply for everybody on Earth. All right, next. Okay, what is food security? Okay, food security is a multi-dimensional concept. So therefore, each and every one of us will be looking at food security problem based on their professional or experience. And so often than not, we tend to specialize in addressing one aspect of larger food security problems. All right. And agricultural production, trade, income, food quality, clean water, sanitation, governance, and political stability are all factors influencing one food security status. And in 1996, World Food Summit held in Rome claims that food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs and food preference for an active and healthy life. Reflecting to this definition, I would say that every research effort that a food scientist like myself and my other colleagues that probably join our webinar here does all boils down to food security. Okay, so although they could say that they do not do food security research per se, but they are actually contributing to their research is actually contributing to strengthening our food security. So there are four main dimensions of food security that we are talking about here. And number one is food availability, which addresses the food supply through food production, food stocks, food aid and import capacity. And number two, food access, which addresses purchasing power and affordability, and as well as transport and market infrastructure. Um, and number three is food utilization. And this is an interesting concept for the fact that traditionally it is all about consuming sufficient protein and energy, and which is more to quantity than the quality. And in fact, WHO recommend an average of 2,100 kilocalorie per day per person. And if you go and look at the packaging on your foods, okay, you can see that an indication of your daily calorie that you should be taking, which is around 2,000 kilocalorie. Okay, and other factors that affect food utilization are nutritious food, food safety and quality, clean water, and also sanitation. Number four, food stability. Okay, food stability is to make is making sure that all of the other three dimension of food security is maintained, which depend on weather variability, okay, price fluctuation, as well as political and economy stability. Okay, next. So where are we in food security? To simplify the complexity of the factors, of the various factors that contribute to food security, one tool called Global Food Security Index, FSI, is used to assess a country in terms of their food security, which consider 28 indicators within this four dimension food security across 113 countries. Okay, as you can see here, among the ASEAN countries, Singapore is in the top rank, okay, followed by Malaysia. But despite of being number one, okay, Singapore has taken a proactive step to buffer the food supply disruption by increasing its food production from less than 10% to 30% by the year of 2030. So the policy that is championed by the Singapore Food Agency is called 30 by 30. This policy identify the areas that they should be examining, such as urban farming or precision farming through the Internet of Things as their main strategy. As you may well know that, Singapore is having a problem of space for a traditional farming practice, basically. And along with that, the GFSI, the index also ranked the countries based on the prevalence of undernourishment. And this indicates the percent of the population that does not meet the calorie requirements, as I mentioned before, stipulated by the WHO. Next. All right. Now we are looking at many different strategies to to make sure that we maintain our food security in the next 20 to 30 years, okay? And by talking about food security strategies, then we cannot avoid of giving an informations on the gene editing, especially, right? So gene editing is done by the gene editing tools, namely CRISPR, Cas9, or ZFN, or Talent. Okay, these are the three gene editing tools that are being used and being studied throughout the world, which has solved many crop related problems for growers. And what they do was using these tools to cut out certain bits of DNA in order to control the traits, okay, certain traits. If we don't want the bad traits that impede the growth of the plants, then we can just cut off that portion of DNA, and we will just let the DNA structures to repair itself automatically. All right, and the results are endless. Okay, we can produce reduce gluten wheat. Okay, we can avoid the browning of mushroom that has been cut or bruised. We can produce soybean with lower unhealthy fat, and even the global chocolate brands like Mars is actually behind the effort to come out with the cocoa species that can fight off a virus which is devastating the crops in the West Africa. And what is good about this technology is that there is no uh, uh, foreign DNA is introduced, okay, into the plants like the GMO. Therefore, these types of plants, okay, as a result of the gene editing, are not being subjected to strict regulation and years of testing required by GMOs. But however, the EU has recently ruled out to regulate gene-edited plants the same as GMOs, unfortunately. Okay, and when we are talking about synthetic biology, the findings of abscisic acids, okay, it opens the doors to many various agrochemicals that can promote stomatal closures. That means, as you can see there, um, these ABA analogs, okay, these ABA or abscisic analogs can promote the closure of stomata. When the stomatal cells is closed, then there will be no release of water. Okay, so this is basically to make sure that the plants can be resistant to drought and high temperature. Okay, so it's very simple. You can just apply these chemicals, okay, to the plants, and then the plants or your crops will be just resistant to the drought, for example. And thanks to the recent findings of the abscisic acid and the understanding of how these plant hormones works in the at molecular level. Next. Right. Another way of looking at the maintaining food security is how we can actually find alternative food resources. Okay, especially the protein food sources. As you can see here, one of them is insect farming. All right. If we depend on the livestock production, okay, of course, there will be 76% increase in meat demand from 2007 to 2050. And as a result of this demand, and even currently, that 1/3 cereal production is used as livestock feed every year. Okay, and this amount of cereal stocks can feed almost 3 billion people. Okay, so that means, of course, there are efforts to actually formulate feedstocks from the non-edible sources, but we still have to be dependent on cereal legumes to provide feedstocks to the animals. Okay, and this has got to be stopped. Okay, because we are just running out of food sources in a way. And areas for further research for further research is to provide, especially in the insect farming, is to provide information such as because there are many species. Okay, there are almost 2,000 edible insect species that have been consumed, especially in tropical countries. And the good things about this is about living in tropical countries is because it's summer all the year round, so the insects can actually survive all the year round. Okay, and and in fact, Thailand has advanced in this area, and they have around 2,000 farms producing 7,500 tons per year of insects. Okay, other than supplying proteins to our diets. Okay, insects also can meet our amino acid requirements, and this also contains high monounsaturated fatty acid as well as polyunsaturated fatty acids, as well as the minerals like iron and zinc. And of course, we need further identifications of edibles, insect that is available. Although insects pathogens can be specific to invertebrates, okay, pathogen spreading can be very risky in the captive population when we want to do in insect farming. Therefore, sanitizing method should be in place. All right. As also, we need to be looking at the potential allergy to humans when we consume insects, for the fact that insects are taxonomically closely related to crustacean. Okay, crustacean, for example, shrimps. Okay, there are some people who cannot eat shrimps. And in the Western civilization, okay, in the West countries, okay, for insects consumption as a food protein supply is regarded as a primitive food. Okay, and it is not very appealing to them. So we need to have more awareness and also education in terms of consumption of insects as a food protein source. Okay, next. Another things that we need to be looking is the cultured meat. All right. Okay. So basically, how is it being done? How is it being produced? Is we take stem cells from the tissue of the animals with a small biopsy under anesthesia. Okay. And in animal, normally these stem cells creates new muscle tissues when the muscles is injured, basically. So it's always working to actually heal the injured cells in the animals. Okay, but these cells, these stem cells is normally attached to the scaffolds and are fed with nutrients in a bioreactor to multiply into trillions of cells and form myotubes. Okay, and these myotubes will eventually differentiate and form muscle fibers. And these are all done in the conditions mimicking the body of the animal. Okay, but one that needs to be emphasized is that this is simply tissue engineering technology and no genetic modification is involved. So it is not a GMO product, basically. But despite of all these benefits, it offers, when compared to traditional livestock farming, when there are many problems. For example, the culture medium is very expensive. Okay, the culture medium that is being identified is L15 and M199 supplemented with fetal bovine serum. And this cultured meat is basically processed or minced meat, and the production of thick piece meat is not quite there at the moment. Okay, and also there is an element of unnaturalness, inferior taste, as well as the text, because of we can only be able to produce minced meat out of this technology, so the texture is still not there yet. Okay, next. Okay, another alternative for food protein sources is the cultivation of microalgae. Okay, the main problem with this cultivation of microalgae is the harvesting technique at commercial scales. Okay, because we need to remove as much as culture medium as possible. Okay, so that the downstream processing, such as extractions of the bioactive compounds, becomes a lot easier. All right. And however, harvesting them in such a large scale is very challenging, okay, due to some reasons. Number one is because of the small density difference between the algae cells and the culture medium. And number two is the low concentration of the algae cells, and as well as the high ionic interaction of the algae cells with the water. Okay, basically if we use wastewater, for example, and therefore there is no single harvesting techniques being identified which make the harvesting of algae very expensive. Okay, so the scientists are still looking at one single harvesting technique that is cheap and efficient. Next. Okay, how we actually, other than looking at the alternative food resources, protein resources, and how we actually manage our food waste. There are 1.6 billion tons of food is wasted along the chain, and 1.3 billion is actually edible. Okay, then there is a very fine difference between food loss and food waste. And food loss is normally to reduce the food loss takes place normally at the food production, post harvest, and processing stage. Okay, and it's so food loss happens so rampant, especially in developing countries. On the other hand, food waste refers to what is lost at retail and by consumers. When we are looking at food wastage, okay, areas that needs to be explored is, of course, what can we do with our food supplies during the post-harvest stage. And this we can also be looking at the active and smart packaging. Okay, and again we need to actually understand what is the active and smart packaging. Okay, basically active packaging is to incorporate any beneficial compounds into the packaging to enhance the properties of the packaging, such as permeability to moisture, light, air, and also prevention from oxidation, ethylene removal, and so on and so forth. Okay, the technology that is coming up now is nanotechnology, and silver nanoparticles is the nanoparticle that is commonly used and is considered safe. Okay, and these particles is introduced into the gaps between the polymers to enhance the oxygen barrier. However, there is an issue with the toxicity of the nanoparticles if you want to introduce many other different types of nanoparticles due to its smaller size that could penetrate into the human cells, basically. And if you go to the smart packaging, normally smart packaging is all the packaging that tells you the condition or the physical chemical changes of the food that you pack or inside your packaging. But the problem with the smart packaging is that you need to have a very tiny devices that could be resistant to impact or physical handling, and the scientists is still continue researching on the most robust and easy use of these sensors. Okay, but before that, we also need to do the validations of the sensor in the way that how small of the amount of, for example, metabolites, or how low is the number of the bacterial cells, for example, can be detected by the sensors. Okay, so the detections limit for the sensors is the new area that need to be looked into. Okay. And of course, there are many new extraction technologies are available, but these new extraction technologies that you can actually use to extract bioactive compounds are still at the lab scale, for example, ultrasound and stuff. So the upscale, there is an issue of upscaling upscaling methods using all of these technologies, basically. Okay, next. And lastly, we should be talking about urban farming. And one method in urban farming is vertical farming. All right. And because of the border close, we are having a labor shortage, and we are lacking of manpower to actually do the 3D jobs. Okay, the 3D jobs is dangerous, dirty, and difficult. All right. And also there is a shift in terms there is a shift or the city migration that happens around the world, and by the next 10 to 20 years, there will be 60% of the world population will live in urban areas. So urban farming is one of the aspects that we need to be looking into. There are companies in Malaysia that already promote this urban farming or vertical farming. So normally vertical farming is carried out in indoor. Okay, so the supplies of the nutrients, water, and everything is precisely monitored. Okay, and then the sensoring and Internet of Things also has to come into play. Okay, so the companies that are operating the vertical farming is like City Farm Malaysia, Babylon Vertical Farms, and Urban Farm Tax are all of those the companies that are still operating at their infancy. But what are the challenges for the vertical farming? Number one is the high startup costs, okay, because you need to buy the rack, and then but the rack has to be stacked on top of the other, and then whether it has to be rotated so that you can get equal amount of light. And also we need to have and also high power consumption using artificial light is also a challenges in a vertical farm. Even though LED light is being identified as the cheap sources of artificial light, but we still have to continue looking at a cheaper alternative, okay? But Malaysia is not very what we call that consistent with the power supplies. Okay, there will be power outage problems. The vertical farmings at the moment is only feasible or viable for the leafy greens, but not for the staple crops like rice. Okay, so this is the area that we have to look into. What about root plants? Okay, because root plants, because we don't use soils basically, so maybe we should be looking at the aeroponic systems. Okay, and also the consumers' perceptions on the hydroponic vegetables, that they think that these products or these commodities are tasteless and watery. So we also need to educate that to the public about the commodities as a result from the vertical farming. So I think that those are the options or areas of research that we should be looking into, not only as a food scientist like myself and my other colleagues that are here, but as well as people who who are in other areas like town plannings or policymakers and stuff like that. So with that, next. So with that, I would like to thank to the Research Nexus UiTM for inviting me to actually give an overview of our of the topics, and over to you, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adi. Running out of time, so I would like to welcome Associate Professor Dr. Margaret Chan Kit Yong for the second talk on the. So let me introduce Dr. Margaret first. Margaret is a lecturer, associate professor from Faculty of Plantation and Agrotechnology, UiTM Mukah, Sarawak. She was first appointed as a research officer in Department of Agriculture of Sarawak as a plant pathologist. And she joined UiTM as a senior lecturer in 2000 and was appointed as a head of Natural Product Research and Development Center in 2005 and holding the post until 2017. Dr. Margaret actually is one of the key personnel in the establishments of the Faculty of Plantation and Agrotechnology and the Agrotechnology Park in Mukah campus. Currently, Dr. Margaret is a UiTM coordinator for 5 Erasmus Capacity in Higher Program funded European Union project. And her field of specialization is on agriculture, biotechnology and management,
research focus on investigating mycorrhiza symbiosis with crop as the way forward to sustainable agriculture practices. And for sustainable environmental management, Dr. Margaret worked on evaluations of all palm empty fruit bunch compost as soil amendment for all plantation and food productions. So I welcome Dr. Margaret. Thank you. And just to let you all know, Dr. Margaret now is a #1 list of top 10 researcher in UITM expert. You are welcome, Dr. Margaret. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, colleagues and everyone who is attending. Thank you, Dr. Siti Noor, for your kind introduction. And I would sort of go quite fast without the formality of addressing everybody who is here. We have just heard from Dr. Adi, and he has indeed done a good job in getting the ball rolling. On my part, I will focus on upstream food production I think as I was listening to Dr. Adi talking about food production from insect, I had done a research on using sago worm, sago palm worm to produce this high protein food using the spray drying technique. But this research was stalled because it has some issue with halal criteria. Anyway, I will move on. I will focus more on the opportunities of research in food security, as I mentioned, on upstream production. And I cannot change. Oh, okay. From my perspective, there are three general trends in food production chronology that requires research to alleviate related problems. As Dr. Adi has mentioned about the increase in population that has been projected to reach 9 billion by United Nations. And perhaps you can just take the time as I go through to read the reason, the causes that attribute to that issue of the trend. The second one is the imperative use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides since 19th century. And we have encountered an alarming rate of extinction of species, especially beneficial microbes. And also nobody can deny not having heard about global warming and climate change due to greenhouse emission in which agriculture has been blamed for. And thirdly, the era of green revolution that has brought in the introduction of transgenic crops in 1950s is also a big concern by the United Nations and also globally on the scientific fraternity. So the question therefore is, are we able to match food supply with every increase in demand, and so for how long? And we have to recognize that in Malaysia, there is a relationship between the social background of Malaysians and the population, size, income, and dietary shift. Malaysians have got lack of research and development, lack of young talent in the agriculture industry, and dependency on other countries for food supply, in which I think the university has to address to this situation. Now, I need to make you aware of the 17th Sustainable Development Goal of the United Nations, in which the 6th strategic track of the 11th plan, with the theme of anchoring growth on people, continuing the government focus, mirrors these 17 SDGs. Now, the reason why I want to bring it up is because having been involved in the workshop on 12th Malaysia Plan, in the agricultural sector by the Ministry of Agriculture. I know that SDG play a very important role. So my message here is that it is inevitable now the application of research grants, whether it is local, national, and international, you must include which SDGs you are addressing. That will place your proposal to a high level of contention. And especially, I think, if, for example, in FRGS, there's a section on government policy. You have to be global now, because today we are looking into this globalization, in particularly in reference to COVID-19. And very clearly, in the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, in which Malaysia is a signatory, there are two goals that have been focused. One is Goal 2, which is zero hunger. Now, I've listed the strategy on ending hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture in there. It's a bit too lengthy to read out, but I will share these slides with all of you. Then when you have that, you can look into the area that is related or you are interested in doing. So I move on to Goal 12, which is responsible consumption and production, in which Dr. Adi has mentioned quite substantively on this particular goal. So like in any of your research application, relate this goal, the Sustainable Development Goals, as your one of your supporting research plan to sort of increase your value, what we call the value proposition of your research proposal. Now, I also want to bring up this particular meeting that EU has conducted on the EU Biodiversity Strategy Protecting Ecosystem in October 2020 in response to COVID-19 pandemic. On their move to tackling climate change and reducing risk of future pandemics and integrating biodiversity policy to fully integrate objectives of agriculture, fishery, and forestry sector. Now, I was in Brussels in January for the briefing on one of my Erasmus project, and they have informed that future Erasmus project will be shifted to address three main issues. One is on empowerment of women and youth. The other one is public health. And the third is about climatic change. So this area of research provides us a good opportunity for us to focus on. And highlighting, as I mentioned to you, that the meeting was in fact related to this unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. They recognize, therefore, and emphasize three very strong statements. Fundamental importance of ecosystem and biodiversity for health and economic social stability. Number two, biodiversity as a life insurance for healthy lifestyle. And number three, destruction and nature, because it is a risk of disease outbreak and pandemics. So based on this outline, I would like to move into when we want to do research on food security relating to agricultural sustainability. I'd like you to share this model, which was introduced by Beddington et al. 2012, in which they come out with what we talk about the safe operating space for interconnected food and climatic system. Their narratives are in order to adapt to climatic change and ensure food security. So major interventions are required to transform current pattern and practices of food production, distribution, and consumption. So we, in the scientific community, have a very essential role to play in this kind of research in which we establish climatic resilient agriculture production system. So therefore, I urge you that whatever research proposal that you want to do, you will have this in mind. Although I know many of you have already conducted research, but you have not sort of relate your research in this area. So in future, I suggest that when you present papers, you mention about SDG, you mention about your approach towards a safe operating space. That's why I show you this slide. And of course, as I mentioned to you that when we talk about climatic resilient agriculture system, in understanding the message I have brought across, there are these 4 areas that is a feature of food secure future, which involve in new technology and practices. The minor points, I will not go through it, the integrated global knowledge system, sustainable agriculture practices, and of course the last part, which is advancement of technology strategies, which is related to smart farming, precision farming, etc. So moving on, I think from all what I have shared with you, I have actually more or less identified key points in upstream production in 6 focus areas, which is on sustainable system, crop farm, animal health. This is very important because this is the one that has been the focus point of COVID-19 because of the animal mutation, animal virus mutation into human being. Food safety and nutrition, in which Dr. Adi has already talked in great length, and reducing waste depending on which aspect you are talking about, in which I will share with you some of the findings that I have from my research. Understanding and exploiting genomics. I know many of you, particularly in the Shah Alam and Jasin, because you have the facilities, you are doing quite a lot of genomics study. Unfortunately, here in Sarawak, we are not able to do that due to lack of equipment. And of course, precision agriculture and smart technologies. UiTM Sarawak is very strong in this. A lot of our research are being supported by the state government in coming up with modules and systems relating to this. So all these key points are related to protecting the environment, promoting sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources in relation to food security. So here I would probably highlight some of the areas that if you are in this particular research aspect, you can, these are the points that in food security has highlighted. For example, as if you are a crop breeder, of course, your focus is achieving improved cultivars, but the point now is that because of climatic change issue, the emphasis should be looking for cultivars that have tolerance towards suboptimal soil and climatic conditions. So you have come up with these innovative tools with genetic engineering to address durable disease resistant, abiotic stress tolerance, and nutrient and water use efficiency. I'm not a crop breeder, so I don't have any examples to show to you from my experience, but I think many of you have been doing this particular crop, but I've seen a lot of papers that I've reviewed or some of the theses that I have examined. It is very much related towards high yielding and resistant, but I think we should look into the focus on the soil and climatic condition. These are the area that is quite not a lot of knowledge gap is looking for. And the other one is plant growth promoting microorganism bioinoculums. Now the focus is coming back to here. As I mentioned to you, one of the trend that we use chemical fertilizer and chemical pesticide and so on has actually impacted a lot of the microorganism biodiversity, eliminating them from the our agriculture system. But the trend now is coming back, looking at PGBM role used as a bioinoculum. I also do not have any experience in research on this area, but I think I have done quite a lot of a PhD thesis examining topics on this area from India. So India is going in a big way into looking at this plant growth promoting microorganism. So I propose, I suggest that some of you look into this area, because this is one of the mitigation towards climatic change and towards the biodiversity loss in the nature. So this is a very good area to research on. I know that because I think in Jasin and in Shah Alam, you have all these equipments and all these good facilities that you can look into this area of research. Of course, safe, effective pest management strategies. I think in all our crop protection cost program, in all our normal talks, newspaper articles, we always mention about safe, effective, integrated pest management strategy. But how many actually farmers or food producers adopt this IPM? Because they don't have the enough research finding to assure them that this really works, because they are talking about return of revenue rather than research finding. So, and that is the reason why I think the organic food products that is on the market shelf is very expensive. That is the impression that is being given to many consumers. That when you talk to the local farmers, why are you using all these chemical, high rate of chemical and not going into organic? They just tell you that it is not feasible cost-wise. But I think it is feasible. It's just that there is lack of information about this, lack of a system, lack of a model, in which I suggest that those of you who are from the crop protection area of expertise can look into this, not just looking at one or two, not fragmentation, but the whole system of this IPM. And so this another area which is on sustainable and efficient water resources development and management scheme. This area is a very what I would say an area that is very of great concern, because when we talk about climatic change, and in fact that this year the United Nations has declared it as water resources, how do we conserve water in the global scenario. So this, why I bring this one up is because in this area, it's this is pertinent in the paddy and oil palm sector. Paddy, I think you understand why, because especially wet paddy, we have problem with water stress, drought problem, and so on. So the picture here indicates the possibility of going into smart farming on control of the irrigation system and so on paddy. And why I bring up oil palm? Now, oil palm has been an agenda by international anti-oil palm lobbies in using the water factor as a propaganda on banning the palm oil, until you meet some of the our own local Malaysian people, own local people who I'm not very familiar with the oil palm plantation and oil palm agronomic practices following the mindset of the European propaganda. I remember when I was in Brussels, I was talking to one of the tour guides who was bringing, whom I joined, and he talks about the banning of oil palm and in the European nations. So he was explaining to the European tourists in which I joined about the climatic effect, the impact on this climatic change. A large contribution is because of oil palm. So I did not want to tell him that I was from Malaysia. I come from one of the largest producer of oil palm, and I was asking him, why do you say that? So they were talking about, number one, of course, naturally in deforestation. Number two is about destroying of animal habitats, particularly our famous orangutan in Borneo. Counting to the fact that they have a fire in Australia, I saw. They said that if you take one spoonful of palm oil, you kill one orangutan, which is just not true. And of course, the third one, even our own people who says, coming back to this Brussels, and there was it was in one of the day when I was there, this Gretel Thunberg, I think you know about this Swiss girl, who is ambassador to climatic change. She organized a world day on this climatic change, and I saw pictures of Malaysians, young Malaysians gathering in Merdeka Square, having placards saying that ban oil, palm oil. It's very sad to see that our own people don't know the contribution of oil palm to our GDP and so on. So these are the area that therefore with the impression that our water resources are being affected because oil palm take up a lot of water, for the fact that once they take up because of climatic change, the clouds are blown away from our place, from the place of planting. So that's why it resulted in drought. However, this water situation are shifted to another area which caused heavy rain, hurricanes, and flood. So all these climatic vital signs that I'm not going to go into in depth. But what I want to emphasize is that this research focus on efficient water resources in oil palm, particularly also in paddy and also our other food crops, should be an area of a priority of focus. And then, of course, I'd like to share with you two major areas on relating to agriculture sustainability, which I'm very much involved in. Number one is using of biological agents as a mitigation towards using chemical fertilizers and so on, which I have mentioned to you earlier about the effect on the earth, land fertility and so on. Now, I've been doing this vascular mycorrhiza of sago palm for a very long time since I joined UITM, and that was my main area of research. And together with Siti Samsia, she was then my master's student, and she's now doing a PhD in UPM. We study a lot of mycorrhiza, and this is on your, if you are facing on your left, this is our most famous mycorrhiza picture that we were able to capture and has been used by a lot of people who are doing micro research as their symbol. We did not patent it or copyright it, so we have no say in stopping them. But in this particular research, I want to share with you this because I know that many of you are doing tissue culture, propagation, and all these things, all this area. And we went, what we did was, other than the field work of mycorrhiza, we look into introducing these mycorrhiza spores. It takes us a lot of effort to produce spores because, mycorrhiza needs to have a living host to survive, but somehow or another we were able to manage to cultivate these spores, and then we introduce it to the tissue culture at the during your initiation of root system. And what we have found out is that this mycorrhiza has stimulated the root growth faster than the hormone that you're using to stimulate. And so we feel that this is an area that we can avoid using perhaps artificial hormones, but going into mycorrhiza. But this will take a lot of initial fundamental research. And of course, I have presented this, we have presented this in International Mycorrhiza Symposium. And this particular area is very new to this mycorrhiza research fraternity. There are a very small group of people doing this because the members of IMS, in which I'm in, International Mycorrhiza Society, they are more into looking at using mycorrhiza into mitigation or using it as a pest control and soil amendment and so on. And so I'm not going into that detail, but I just want to share with you one of the example that those of you who are doing tissue propagation, you can look into this area in which it is part of the agenda of agriculture sustainability using biological agents in mycorrhiza. It also works in the field situation. I have also presented this finding when I was in when I took part in a conference in Arizona in US in 2015 for the conference. What here I want to show you is that a lot of people, a lot of agronomists are telling you that mycorrhiza does not work. It won't work because it is not as effective. But what our finding found is that there is an inverse relationship between the mycorrhiza infection in the roots or mycorrhiza symbiosis relationship and fertilizer application. So this model actually shows that it makes sense because a plant, if you are spoon feeding them with chemical fertilizer, definitely they will move into that direction. Because if they are going into mycorrhiza symbiosis, there is this sharing of food that you have to pay for this mycorrhiza to work for you, for the nutrients that they are not able to they are not able to uptake themselves. So in many situations, why I'm looking into mycorrhiza and together with the international fraternity on mycorrhiza, their opinion is that when you keep on applying fertilizer, you are upsetting not just the microorganism diversity in the soil, but you are also changing the pH of the soil, in which, as you know, that if the pH is on both extremes, certain nutrients in ionic form or cationic form cannot be uptaken by the plant due to their inavailability of this condition. However, for example, this sago, it grows in a very acidic condition, and by applying fertilizer, actually it does not help. So why it can be successful in a semi-domesticated area? Because the reason I believe that is the mycorrhiza, because mycorrhiza are able to break down unavailable nutrients required by the plant and transfer it to the plant in return for carbohydrates in the food. So that kind of perspective, we can look into that. And in fact, in oil palm, I had one master student who has suspended her study because of her family commitment. She did on indigenous mycorrhiza of oil palm in nursery production. Actually, the indigenous mycorrhiza was more effective than the commercial mycorrhiza that you can buy in town. And with that, I'm very confirmed about mycorrhiza actually have specificity, host specificity. So in order to be successful, you have to go back into fundamental research on looking at which mycorrhiza, you look at the indigenous mycorrhiza of certain crops, and then you work on that. Coming to the next one, which is on bio-waste, on sustainable agriculture development, in which just now Prof. Dr. Siti has mentioned that I do a lot of EFB, compost work, etc. Now, this is to address the bio-waste from the oil palm industry. And of course, we know that EPF has been converted to compost. Now, I have been, actually, this work is actually being sponsored by the private sector because they produce compost, but they have not sufficient market. So we are looking at how we can use compost, not just in oil palm, not just in other areas, but in other crops, on how we can do soil amendment. Now, I am very short of time. So what I just want to share with you that from this picture itself, the paddy trowel using compost as a soil amendment. The yellow one, you can see that, of course, EAB compost has increased the yield compared to the green one, which is a control and nitrogen application. And then the mixture, which is the base. I will conclude this with my next slide. But what I'm trying to say is that in paddy, when you put compost, because we know that compost has this high water capacity retention. So that is why I believe this is the result. I have no time to interpret further in this result, but just by looking at this, I hope it can motivate you into this area. And of course, the recent study on using these organic methods for palm oil in marginal soil. I'm using one of the growth parameters of the leaf area, which is the graph on the left, and then the other two, which is soil content and plant content. And you will find that whatever formulation of treatments that you find, whether it is pure chemical, whether it's combination of chemical and compost. Of course, I got rid of the just compost because this is a long-term plant. Compost does not have sufficient nutrient to support this, and so that's why we have a combination. You'll find out that in fact the combination has better performance than chemical, and we believe that this chemical, a lot of the chemical fertilizer are being leached, while when you use combination, the plant respond to uptake from the chemical fertilizer is first, and by the time it has run out from the chemical application, the compost has already been decomposed and make available the nutrients that is. So there is this continuation of supporting to make up the fertilizer that is leached, and also the higher rate of fertilizer that you apply in the soil is not being uptake because it can because most of these you know this is most of the fertilizer can be leached off, and so the combination. What I'm trying to say is that we can reduce fertilizer application by mixing it with EAP compost, and at the same time, you see that there's no significant differences among the growth parameters among the treatment, and it shows that this method can reduce can be an alternative application fertilizer application in oil palm industry, and of course this is fit in very well, mirror in very well in food in agricultural sustainability by the reduced use of chemical fertilizer and increased use of organic matter. As Dr. Siti has mentioned that I have this Erasmus project. I think there'll be a time when you people should, especially the young ones, should mature yourself into international collaboration. And because of the emphasis of SDG and food security in our research proposal to the Erasmus project, we highlight that we were very successful in getting out of these 5 Erasmus projects that I'm now involved in which I'm leading. We just got one which will be starting end of this year, 2020. The 3 that is looking into aspect of agriculture sustainable development is on a project on Industry 4.0 that is focusing on smart agriculture, smart precision farming agriculture. The next one is on applied computational fluid dynamics. These are also using agriculture to develop agriculture model system. And the last one, which is food processing and innovation, which will be finishing at the end of next year. So these are the areas of opportunities on food, which just now everybody knows about. That is a very important subject in our food production, in food security. So in my with time constraint, I cannot go into very detail, but rest assured, I'm willing to share this slide with you, so you can ask the organizers for it. But I think you just need to adopt a paradigm shift in agriculture development for sustainable food production and security through green revolution and eco-friendly approaches. So with that, I hope I have provided you with sufficient idea and opportunities in your research from the food security perspective. So I will hand back to Dr. Siti as I finish this session. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. It's a very informative presentations. So now I open these sessions for Q&A, and there are one question for Dr. Adi from Dr. Siti Rabiza Masin. Doctor, how about in terms of halal condition of this culture meat grown? Dr. Adi?
Yes, when the stem cells are taken from the live, the stem cells are actually taken from the live animals through the biopsy procedure. So the animal will be put into the anesthesia. But the thing that is, the questioning issue is the medium that we actually feed into the cells. Okay. Because the medium is supplemented with like I said, the fetal bovine serum, and this fetal bovine serum is extracted from the baby cow. And if the baby cow is not properly slaughtered, then that's probably a halal issue over there. Then it should open up for an area of research in the perspective of halal.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adi. So if okay, I have one from Doctor, we have of security and we actually should focus on more.
I believe I believe we should focus on using less of chemicals, methodology like fertilizer, like pesticide and weedicide, because it has impact on the microorganism diversity. I brought up the Luxembourg meeting on biodiversity strategy because they align that they have now redesigned their biodiversity strategy towards more use of microbes, like I highlighted using the PG, the plant growth health PGBM, mycorrhiza, and all rhizobia, and all this nitrogen fixing ability and so on. Because when we use this, and if we are able to indicate the desired food yield, that will be the way forward by reducing less of fertilizer. So as I mentioned to you, I have shown you some of my research findings that there is this there is the evidence that we can actually reduce the use of fertilizers used by going into the organic aspect, because the world now is talking about the impact of chemicals on not just on our food, it is all on climatic change. You know that they talk about methane and nitrous oxide is the main agriculture GHG emission. So these are related to farm animals and also to the fertilizer. So if we focus our area into that, now there is one suggestion a long time ago when I was working on mycorrhiza by one of the professors. He posed this challenge to me, but I cannot do it because I'm not a molecular biologist. He posed that if we can actually identify those beneficial microbes, and then we extract that DNA and insert this DNA and transfer it into the plants, so that the plant itself can also self-resistant and then nitrogen fixing, etc. That will be the new direction into the new direction of research based on relating to climatic change. And as I mentioned to you, I have examined quite a few PhD theses on this particular area. They haven't gone into the genomics yet, but they are at the fundamental research of identifying these microbes which are beneficial. So I think this is the way that we can jumpstart by identifying the microbes, extracting the DNA that has got beneficial towards the agriculture plant itself, to build this DNA into the plants. That will be the direction, and I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. So we assume between upstreams and downstreams, we should more focus on upstreams because it's where our inputs of agriculture and foods is. We should focus for now, even though downstreams food processing industry also is important here for food security. We have another question from Marina Yusof to Dr. Margaret. How about soil assessment and soil healthiness or for fruit or other plant crop production in Malaysia right now? Dr. Margaret?
Yeah, I think everybody has, every crop in Malaysia have a chance of in-depth research. You can look into areas where plants that have been less researched, then you have that better opportunities especially in grant application, in grant bidding for grant. It works anyway. What I've done for sago, what I've done for paddy and oil palm, from the mycorrhiza perspective and also from the soil amendment perspective by reducing chemical fertilizer and increasing the organic matter, works in any plant. I have a lot of final year students who are looking at added value, high value vegetables. And the results are all the same, that at the end of the day, we see that first cropping, you have compost and just topsoil, you get a good crop. But as you go further, then you find out that the compost are not sufficient. So I'm trying to actually, if you can just think of the forest, the natural forest ecosystem, why is there no problem in disease, no problem in soil, and then the forests are thriving very well? So because our food production, we are taking away a lot of the organic matter. from the system. We harvest and then we never put back. So that the idea of the EAP compost is to return. We cannot use the original organic matter, but we use another source of organic matter and put it back into the system. But of course, that system is not sufficient. I have one study by one student in which we look at the micro organism diversity. In fact, our assumption was not correct. I was thinking that if you have chemical fertilizer, your population, your microbes, dynamic population will be less because a lot of the microbes are being killed. On the other hand, if you use organic matter, you have a lot of food for this microorganism to strive. But what we have found out, and then later on we have found other people who are supporting this finding, was that actually, if you if you eliminate some of the flora of the microorganism flora, you actually encourage the more resistant microbes to flourish. So at the end of the day, the conclusion is that if you use continuous use of chemical, you will reduce the diversity of the microbes in the soil, but you don't reduce the population density of the soil. And that, in other words, there are some microbes that are more aggressive because of the synergetic effect is no longer there. They are able to become prominent, and in time to come, these are the ones that when they have a population explosion, they will mutate and move to other organisms. And I think this is the same theory as the COVID virus from the natural point of view. So again, when you want to talk about any other crop, it works the same way. It's just that try to research in an area where very few people are researching on, the indicator plant that you are researching on, then you have the more chance of getting the research grant. So at the moment, I'm doing this asparagus, a local, a lowland asparagus, using this method, using this systemic method, which I'm using actually chicken manure and compost, and it works very well. Okay, so I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. We are actually run out of time because we have another webinar after this. So last questions, comment from Facebook by Jasper Kaur. My questions is to both speakers. Maybe Dr. Adi and Dr. Margaret can answer this. What are your thoughts on food sharing among community via mobile apps at consumption level to reduce food waste? How extensive is the use of mobile apps in Malaysia?
Maybe I can answer that. I mean, the mobile,
Yes.
the mobile apps has been used quite extensively in terms of like food delivery, food panda, and stuff like that. Okay, and these actually, which is already written in my my article, saying that the service from Food Panda and all of that actually reduce the dependency on the physical retail. So because physical retail, people tend to actually go to the supermarket once in a month or once in a week, and then they tend to stockpile. When they stockpile, and then there is a tendency of food wastage. And that's number one. And number two, probably from individual to another individual, app sharing, it may not be as practical just yet because of the privacy issues. But what we can do is the supermarket can actually share the information where, you know, all these products that are not no longer appealing on the shelf, that they can advertise it on the apps, and then people can come to the supermarkets and buy it at a reduced price, for example. And I think that would be the way to go.
Okay, there are questions. Thank you, Dr. Adi. There are questions that can be answered by Dr. Margaret. Question by Prof. Gay. Sorry. Which one will give faster ROI, return of investment, upstream or downstream agriculture? Which one, Dr. Margaret?
I think without upstream, you cannot get downstream. I think the most important part, I
I agree with that.
have emphasized all this upstream is very important because when you don't have raw material, you don't have the downstream product. And that is the reason why I can share with you. When I was asked to develop the diploma in herbal production, I think a lot of our members from our faculty were thinking that the course was more on the downstream production or extraction of secondary metabolites, etc., etc. So when I presented the course outline, they were shocked because I was talking on the upstream production, and so they asked me to justify, and I told them that this famous statement, without at this point in time, for medicinal, for herbal production, you have a lot of raw materials from the natural resources. So one day you may not have any more due to depletion. So this is the right time for us to go into upstream production of herbal, and it's not that simple because when I was in agriculture, I was asked to set up the herbal garden, ethnobotanical sector of this herbal plant, and I found out that it's not just simple like planting vegetable. Have to study the characteristics. Some of them have to plant under the jungle, etc. And one more, if you apply chemical fertilizer on this herbal plant, the active ingredient will change. So therefore, when I proposed for this herbal production, I went into that cost outline to go into upstream production, to look into that research. I think that is one area which I didn't mention is about the change of the secondary metabolites in plants when you apply fertilizer. So so therefore that area you should be able to, you should focus on, because of at the end of the day, you are going to produce a raw material. When it goes to downstream, they are looking for that quantitative and qualitative components of what they are going to manufacture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. Okay, actually there are one questions talking about any future planning of UITM to do urban farming in campus, seeing we have agriculture experts. Okay, actually UITM has so many incoming futures planning for urban farmings. We have Green Nations at UITM team. We have low carbon city program teams that working on urban farmings, but we still doing some planning and working with the facilities and all that. We will announce to the UITM's staff and students regarding this project. And I think that's it for today. Thank you for sharing your expertise, Dr. Margaret and Dr. Adi, your knowledge and experience with us. And thank you, participants, for being with us from 9 a.m. And I'm very sorry on behalf of the Secretariat for the technical difficulties. And my sincere appreciations to our booth speakers. So before we end our sessions, I would like to say here that in food security, this is where all of our researchers in UITM, no matter you are in faculty agrotechnology or plantations, your faculty applied science or engineering or other faculty, this is where we should hand to hand together integrate a different discipline in UITM to support food security issues in Malaysia. And also, I would like to remind you features of food secure features that been highlighted by Dr. Margaret. Uh, There are three actually I would like to highlight here on the integrated global knowledge system, sustainable agriculture practices, and also advancements of technologies and strategies by sustainable way. So in terms of food security, like protect the environments and promote sustainability management and efficient use of natural resources. With that, I'm signing out here for today with Mina. Thank you all again, and inshallah, we will see you in the upcoming webinar from Research Nexus Energy and Environment Office of Deputy Vice Chancellor's Research and Innovation. So thank you everybody. Assalamualaikum.